here. There's been quite a lot of cars already on the road. And we're going to head towards that area where the Nkuhuma is, and that large herd of buffalo might have met up last night. Now the sun is not playing nicely with Brian and myself this morning. If anything, it seems like it's colder than when we first got up. I'm trying to check very carefully through this area. Oh, there comes a bit of sun. Joy. Now, of course, we have lots of different animals that are around here, and although we are having quite a dry morning so far, I mean we've seen about 3 duiker, almost no Impala, but we'll keep checking. Now Karen is wondering who gets to name the leopards and lions. Well, Karen, that's a question. So with the leopards, it depends where the leopard holds most of its territory, and then normally those decisions are made at a head rangers meeting where names are put forward and then they are decided. So with Shongile and Hosanna, we put them forward at the last head rangers meeting and we got the names through. Now with the lions it's a bit more complicated, and so most of the lions will have a name before their arrival, have had a name for a long time. For example, the Nkuhuma Pride have been around for many years, so they're just the Nkuhuma Pride. With the male lion coalitions, unless they're a new coalition that comes in from Kruger, from an area where people don't know them, you probably find they will have a coalition name from an area before they set up shop in the area that they're going to hold territory over. So for example, the Birmingham boys came from the Timbavati on the farm of Birmingham, and when they were already called the Birmingham boys when they first became independent of their pride. So that's pretty much how the names work for that. Sorry, I'm just listening to the radio. Ephraim has also come to give me a hand looking for these lion tracks. We've got tracks of a herd of buffalo running. So we're going to keep looking. Hopefully we have some success with these male lions. But while we look for male cats, let's go to a female cat with Jamie.
A female giving us a fantastic demonstration of her incredible poise and skill, managing to balance on that marula tree branch and at the same time feed with her head right down. And this goes to show the agility of leopards is a truly impressive thing. Here we go, settling back down again. The other impressive thing, of course, is the opportunism of leopards. The fact that you got 3 in one go. Our bush mum is obviously watching from at least somewhere in Africa, probably somewhere in South Africa. I'd love to know exactly where you are, bush mum, because you have raised a very good observation. Now, bush mum, apparently there are a couple of leopards where bush mum lives, and the leopards there never hoist their kills. And I was wondering if perhaps that is because there are no other predators. Yes, that's exactly why they don't hoist their kills. So anywhere where a leopard is basically an apex predator, where there are no hyenas or lions, then chances are the leopards aren't going to bother with the whole deal. It's only in places where there are other predators that they will hoist their kills. Look, sometimes you might get the odd aberration, an leopard whose instinct says put this in a tree, it'll be safe. But for the most part, you really do. It can be that learning process can be very, very rapid. What I mean by that is if a leopard moves from a place where there are the predators to a place where there aren't any, which of course is what a lot of leopards do, because they, especially young males that disperse over large distances. Now, a female's less likely to disperse that far, but a male definitely will. And it's an almost instantaneous change where they stop pulling their kills up into a tree. Isn't this spectacular? What a phenomenal view. And we have this almost all to ourselves. Nobody else wants to come and join us, which is wonderful news. We're going to sit here for as long as we possibly can. So it's a very astute observation. Leopards just only hoist to get it out of the way of hyenas and lions. And it does make me wonder as to whether or not where the other kills are from Tundy. The last time I saw, she had 2 impalas underneath a bush, and then this one in the tree. Perhaps the other 2 have been left behind as decoys for the hyenas of the area, whilst she focuses on looking after this one. Actually 3 adult impalas for essentially 1 female leopard. Her cubs will nibble on it, but at this point they're too young to eat very much of the carcass. 3 adult impalas is a little bit much for even an animal with an appetite as voracious as a leopard. And I think in the end, something's going to go to waste, or at least go to a hyena perhaps. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't know what it is about today that's making me sneeze. Now, Leslie, while I attempt to hold back another sneeze, my apologies, you wanted to know how long an impala will last up a tree, and will they always hoist into the same trees? No, they won't hoist into the same trees, although it might happen every now and again. For the most part, they just go with whichever tree happens to be closest. And then in how long they can last, well, if a leopard doesn't finish off all of the meat, and they don't always finish everything, the leopard will just leave it up in the tree. Ah, look at that. Done with breakfast for now, and settling down. Now, Leslie, I know of a few impala carcasses up in trees that have lasted up to 4 years, just a skeleton still hanging in a tree. One of the guys that I used to work with always used to take new people to their camp, and he used to joke that the impala had climbed up the tree and got stuck and died up in the tree, which actually wasn't that funny. But absolutely, if it's not knocked out of a tree, which it usually is, by scavenging birds, things like tawny eagles or bataliers, then absolutely it will stay in the tree for a very, very long time, years, in fact, up to several years. There's a deka not too far away from where we are now that Karula caught, and then she left because she could hear her daughter Thandi mating with Tingana not too far away from her. And she left it there, and it's still there in the jackalberry tree to this day, and this is now almost a year later. Aha, very good question from Vulpine Wolf Girl, who would like to know what the weirdest thing is that I've ever seen a leopard eat. I saw a leopard eat a marula fruit once. That was kind of weird. But I'm thinking more in terms of prey species. What's the weirdest thing I've ever seen a leopard eat? Sure. I've heard stories of leopards eating things like aardvark and on odd occasions random things like jackal or serval, but that's something that I've never had a chance to witness. I've never seen. My leopard kills have been relatively ordinary, if you could call it that. Actually, I think I do know what the weirdest thing I've ever seen a leopard eat before, but it was a sad story. It's not a happy story. And it involved working somewhere else a long time ago, and a leopard feeding off a poached rhino carcass. They are scavengers, and they are more than happy to eat whatever they can find, whatever they happen to encounter. They're not fussy at all. You can see her picking her way around the branches of the marula tree, looking for a nice, comfortable spot to find. Viam, what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen a leopard eat? I can't think of anything weirder. So Viam's seen Tingana eat an aardvark. I, of course, have never even seen an aardvark, so I haven't quite got that on my list just yet. What is the weirdest thing we've ever seen them eat on a live safari? Yes! That's a very good one. Kirsty's remembered one, where Mvula ate a monitor lizard. That's a very good... When was that? That must have been ages ago. But Mvula ate a monitor lizard. I've heard of them eating pythons before. Oh, that's very true. There's actually a picture of it as well. The wonderful story of a leopard in the Kruger National Park, and the way this person tells the story is just describing how they set up for their family's breakfast with their kids, and all of a sudden they hear shouts of leopard, leopard, and this leopard comes wandering through, watching people scatter in all directions, and stands up against what we would call a skottel, or a braai, but is basically a barbecue equivalent, stands up on it and starts picking the cooking bacon off the grid. So leopards do that occasionally. Imagine seeing that. Must be such a bizarre moment. Truly surreal. Both terrifying and at the same time fascinating. Obviously that's a leopard that has learnt. That's unusual behavior. Leopards can be quite shy. But that's a leopard that's learnt that people are not a threat. And that if it marches in, everybody's going to run away and leave it free to snap up the bacon. Quite literally. There's some amazing stories of leopards from Kruger. They are fascinating creatures and they do weird things. Weird and unexpected things. Like Karula apparently taking the laundry off the line and rolling in it at the DRC. They're definitely one of the most unexpected of cats. Although that, I suppose, is a very cat thing to be. Unexpected and unpredictable. That can't be comfortable. And the reason I say that is she is so full right now. I mean, her belly is bulging. This has been a feast for several days. She's now lying on her belly. If she's now looking at another impala to catch, I'm going to be seriously flabbergasted. She is looking intently off to the north of us into Torchwood. And Brent raised a good point. A lot of the animals here walk this path in towards Cheetah Dam. So she's found herself the perfect ambush spot. Let's have a look at the bird that's just flown in. Sorry, distraction, I know. It's just flown down into that marula tree there, and I'm struggling with it. It's a juvenile of some description. I'm just trying to work out, it looks like a juvenile tawny. It's slightly mottled. Well, not even a juvenile, might actually be a sub-adult. You can see there's still white patches on it. It is an eagle though, and I think it's a tawny eagle. Just a slightly ruffled looking one. So birds of prey do actually get their adult plumage after many years of maturation. And the juveniles tend to look a lot scruffier than the adults, than the sleek adults. But to see a tawny eagle at a leopard kill is a very common sight indeed. Oh, such ruffled feathers. And they wait for their opportunity to go and grab scraps either off the ground or from the kill itself. Oh, we've got the perfect spot to camp out and warm up in the morning sun along with this tawny eagle. Let's go and have a look at another pretty thing that Stef has found for you.
Look at how wonderful this show that this tree wisteria is putting on for us. One of the few that is low enough for us to actually get you a shot of the pictures, of the flowers nice and close up. Isn't it just a wonderful tree? And just in such a drab landscape at the moment, it's just
all this open plain. The grass is nice, of course it is, but just have a look at this wonderful tree wisteria putting on its show. I love these trees, to be honest. They just have their flowers for a few short days, they get pollinated, and then the petals of the flowers drop off and disappear, leaving the tree, I mean not just the tree of course, but leaving the tree with just its leaves for the rest of summer, where it makes all its energy throughout the entire summer. It's one of the very first trees to push out flowers. I think the last time, or the first tree wisteria that I did see had flowers on, probably 3 weeks ago now. So that was the first tree wisteria that I saw with flowers on. This will be one of the last ones in the area that get flowers at the moment, and always heralds the spring for me. This and the knobthorns are the two trees that herald the spring. So spring well underway, which is a good thing. It's quite cold at the moment. There's a breeze that's busy blowing up from the south. It's been blowing steadily from the south for the last couple of days now. Brian predicts that by this afternoon the wind will have stopped, and then we are in for as he puts it, a cookathon from Friday. I don't quite know what that's supposed to mean, but I'm sure by Friday we'll be able to tell you if we're in a cookathon with Brian. We are heading towards that massive boerbean tree on top of the Termite Mound, the biggest one that I know of at Djuma, and also one of my favorite trees here. So we're on our way there, and we've been popping in at all these pans that are dotted down the Milwaukee just to see what is going on there. And almost all of them have got decent water in. I think that the time of having no water around has pretty much come to an end, even though it was premature to our, watch out for this, this will rip your calves off, as substantial as what they are. These are the things that can catch you unawares. This an elephant has broken off, chewed off this end, and then just discarded the leftover stems with all these vicious thorns on for Jandre to hook himself on. So I think that the time of having no water has actually come to an end, to be honest. Kevin, you've just asked me, am I always aware of wild animals in my environment when I'm presenting? How do I answer this question? Truthfully, no, I'm not. That's one of the reasons why we have Herbert floating around in the bushes in front of us while I'm busy presenting to the camera and looking for interesting things to show you. My attention is definitely not on the environment, and that is absolutely one of the rule number ones of walking through the bush, is that your peripheral senses need to be extended as far as what you can so you don't get into trouble. So there was a time, as you may have remembered, when we were doing bushwalks just two at a time. Scott and I started, and then it went into for probably about half a year or so, where we were just doing two-person bushwalks, but that proved to be too dangerous. We were getting ourselves into too much trouble, mainly because one of our two ears was blocked with a channel and a conversation to Final Control, and also with the cameraman presenter dynamic that I have with you at the moment. It does mean that I'm not looking behind me, and quite often I'm marching backwards while I'm speaking to you, and that definitely isn't the best thing when you are approaching pans full of buffalo and things in the front there. So that's the easy answer. The more complicated answer, I suppose, is that because I live here and this has been my home for so long, I have a very good feeling for what's around. It's a funny thing to say, but you can almost feel, you can feel things when they're around. Your body attunes itself to the way the bush talks. Now, next time you're with a leopard, possibly even when you go back to Tundy in a bit, if there's a bird nearby, you'll notice that that bird's behavior changes when they see a leopard. Very many animals change like that, and you become sensitive to that. We see it when we're approaching elephant, or when we're approaching buffalo, or even the cats. All of a sudden a lion would sit up and look at you and you made not a sound. Or crocodiles would rush off of a bank, or buffalo would just all of a sudden turn around and run away. And that's because they are tuned, they're even more sensitive to the bush and its nuances than what we are out here. So there is a sense. I mean, for now, I've heard some cracking branches off there in that direction, probably about 300 or 400 yards away. I know there's elephant there, so I'm expecting at any moment to hear something. So part of what this ear is doing, it's busy listening over there for the next crack to judge distance. But yeah, that's basically that. So I know I didn't quite answer your question there, but I hope I gave you a satisfactory comment on it in any case. I want to head to these pans here. We've got this junction here we lovingly call Spaghetti Junction. And at Spaghetti Junction, there is a series of very deep pans. And I want to go and see how much water collected from just 25 millimeters of rain. We literally had that much rain across this whole area. It was nothing comparatively speaking to some storms where we can get 100 mils of rain in the same amount of time. But in this particular sense, we just had 25 mils of rain. And I want to go and see basically how much water is collecting in these puddles. Now, in the meantime, James, you've just asked me, or James Richards, you've just asked me, when are we going to see some giant land snails again? And that's a good question, James. I think they're going to come out as soon as we have over 100 mils of rain, I would say, collectively speaking now. So we've had 25 mils of rain plus 2.5. I reckon another 2 or 3 big rainstorms of 25 mils to 35 mils. That's what we're expecting this time of the year. And we should start seeing a lot of giant land snails coming out. Incidentally, I've got some giant land snail. For those of you who don't know what a giant land snail is, I carry around a collection of stuff in this backpack that I hardly ever get to show you. So I just happen to have 2 giant land snails shells. This is an old one. It's been bleached in the sun. It's been lying out here for a few years. This guy probably died last year, or maybe the year before. So this is a slightly fresher one. These are the shells from a giant land snail. This is about as big as they get. And they are the largest land-based mollusks on the planet. So mollusks, and they are the largest land-based mollusks on the planet. They are about as large as what they can get without having to be supported by water of some sort. I carry them around because they are nice cups. I quite like them. I haven't quite figured out how to turn them into earrings just yet, or a necklace or something here. I'm still busy formulating something in my mind. We'll get to it at some point. What killed them? Probably the young fireflies, the larval stage of fireflies. Firefly lands, injects an egg onto the giant land snail. That larvae hatches into the spiky horror that basically eats the giant land snail, kills it, and that's why we have these shells lying around all over the place. I just find it incredible. Have a look at that. Nice patterns. Right. And on we go to the pans at the Spaghetti Junction, but it's going to take us a bit of time to get there, and Brent has found you some buffalo to go and have a look at.
And we made our way towards the Nkuhuma Pride. Tracks of those male lions went back into Torchwood. Now, the Nkuhuma Pride were not far from here. At the moment, I can see, I don't know, probably 70 to 80 buffalo. There could be more. And I've got to wonder, I definitely heard buffalo stampeding last night. And we're not very far from where there was that herd of about 400 yesterday. I'm going to move a little bit further forward, and I wonder if the Nkuhumas have succeeded. Oh, look at that. Now, I'm trying to get us a two-shot, as we would call it. I think it might be quite difficult. But there's, behind the buffalo, there's elephant as well. And also very cool birds are around at the base of the buffalo's feet. Now they're taking advantage of any little thing that's been disturbed. Let me just go forward a bit. Actually, massive flock of wattled starlings that are moving with the buffalo herd. If we have a look a bit more open this side. Look at their feet there, Brian. Here we go now. Oh, of course. Now what I'm trying to do is trying to find a male and see if they've started with their breeding colours, but there's some oxpeckers as well. He's cleaning his beak on the horn. Still, as you see, not any babies, only sub-adults. Ooh. And you can hear that. Those are that wattled starlings. Let's just get a bit further forward. Now the herd is looking a little bit nervous. But there we go, that's looking a bit better. Let's just go a bit further forward. There's elephants. They look like they might. And if there's a young bull elephant there, he might think about chasing the buffalo. Sandy in Canada was wondering, what is the gestation period of a buffalo? And it is quite long. It's about 11.5 months. Now, a buffalo can give birth throughout the year. There's normally a little peak in birthing around the rainy season. Now, I'm flabbergasted we haven't found any lion tracks yet of the Nkuhumas. I've looped around where Jamie last had them. I just want to wait to see what these elephants do, because sometimes they just, for no apparent reason, decide it's a good idea to chase buffalo. Oh, you can see the little wattled starlings. There we go, that's a male. Oh, you can see his wattle, he's in full breeding plumage. So during the winter months, they don't have that wattle. Now, they're a very mobile starling species, and they move around in big flocks and often found around big groupings of animals where they take advantage of any insects that are disturbed by them. Literally following in the footsteps of the buffalo, just waiting for a morsel to pop out. That little Ellie bull almost looks like he's thinking about chasing a buffalo. He shook his head slightly at one a bit earlier. Now that high pitched is that indeed the starlings. I'm going to go back a little bit. There's one displaying quite nicely, Brian. Oh, of course he flies away. Okay, now I can't believe the Nkuhumas haven't. Oh. Look at that. He's thinking about it. Am I going to chase a buffalo today? But to the back, there's one sneaking up on a buffalo. Oh, that buffalo is getting out of there. He knows the elephant's up to no good. not being caught unawares by these creatures. Of course, there have been some records of elephants killing buffalo, but it's very, very seldom, and normally in times of stress around drought, around water holes. It looks like the elephants are going to cross south behind us. Blowing sound. Boom. Oh, look, there's another one. Hey, little guy. Oh, off he goes. The elephants are definitely looking happier now that we've had some rain. Okay, I'm just going to move forward a little bit to the buffalo that are heading north. Now, Andrew in London is wondering, will buffalo, if attacked by lions in a group, will the other buffalo help defend? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It all just depends on the situation. And you can see they're quite skittish this morning. One has to wonder, in this little group, is it a splinter off that big herd that was around yesterday? Now the wind's picking up quite a bit, which will also put them a bit more on edge. So we know there's buffalo here. The lions were sort of off that direction. Sign of these lions. While we do that, Stef has got a zebra. A zebra.
You know, there's just something fantastic about a zebra on foot. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I like seeing them on foot like I do. But there's just something about their curiosity, perhaps, or their general just health. They always look healthy, and it always gives you a nice feeling when you see zebra. I don't know. There's a couple of them there. The grass here is very, very good. And they're not seeing us as a threat whatsoever. They'll come to sit down on a stump, and we're probably about 50 to 60 yards away from these animals at the moment. And they honestly couldn't be bothered. They've been watching us for a while, and now they are moving off. Just have a look at that blaze on the forehead there. Some of my absolute favorite patterns in the bush is that pattern that they have on their forehead looking at us right now. And then another favorite of mine is on their front leg, just on their shoulder blade. There's a chevron that develops. Oh, we're being hunted by a zebra. Don't quite know what I am. I have my back to them, and although Jean-Andre is standing up and his profile is pretty unique and distinctive, my profile isn't. I'm hunched over. What they'd be looking at is a big shiny ball of light as the sun reflects off the top of my head, with a camouflaged jersey on with a big backpack on that I'm sure is confusing that zebra to no end. And just the same as how we distinguish shape and a person's profile by the way that they walk and by the way that they look, so zebra too do exactly the same thing. They're able to distinguish the general size and shape of a threat. And quite often, when you present something that's unusual like I am at the moment, they'll sit and they'll stare at you like this one is doing, very confused. Another animal that does that quite often is a giraffe. And you can get giraffe and even zebra to approach you like this one is, wanting to know exactly what type of animal you are. The reason why that zebra isn't threatened at the moment is that they really can outrun almost anything out here. They're incredibly good sprinters. And with those overly developed hindquarters, they can jump off the mark incredibly quickly. And they can jink a lot as well. They can change direction, throwing off a predator's attack. I would expect that that's probably one of the stallions, but quite tough to say from here. And I would actually need a pair of binoculars and a lot of luck. No, don't know. From this angle, virtually impossible to tell. But just have a look at the health of that zebra at the end of this dry season. Yes, the grass has been growing for about a week or so, and they've had a good head start. But they've managed to weather the storm of this drought season like nothing else here has. Very, very good condition. And clean. Alright, now we are at this giant weeping boerbean tree. But while I get around the corner and while we still have view of the zebra, Emma, you've just asked me how large in terms of weight can a zebra get. Now Emma, that particular animal there weighs about 250 kilograms, about 500 pounds. And next to the waterbuck, a large waterbuck bull, oh, here we have a Wahlberg's eagle. Next to a large waterbuck bull, a large kudu bull, and a large wildebeest bull, the zebras hold prime spot as being one of the heaviest animals out here. So anywhere from 250 to about 300 kilograms. That's about 500 to about 600 pounds. So small for a horse. Our domestic horses can get much bigger than that. I'm not a big brain, or I don't have a lot of knowledge about domesticated horses, but some of the horses that friends of mine have seem much larger than zebra, especially when you get up close. The zebra is actually quite a small thing. Let me see if I can put it into perspective. That zebra's waist is about here on me, and standing up straight, I would imagine that the top of that zebra's head would be just below where my head is. So somewhere around here would be where that zebra's head is at the moment. So waist about here on me, maybe a bit lower, the back of the rump, and then head about here. Very awesome. Band of dark clouds busy coming in. Right, now we're at this tree. This is what I wanted to come to, and we don't have any sign of flowers yet. So for those of you wanting to see if there are any flowers, I don't even see buds of flowers. And that's quite bizarre. It's a bit of a letdown, to be quite honest with you, that there is no flowers there, but it's a good opportunity for me to come and say hello to one of my favorite trees out here, growing on top of the man. Oh, there, boy. Yes, it's always good to come and say hello to big, are ancient beyond even our imagination ancient, and they have lots and lots of memory. And I quite enjoy getting energy from things like this. You know, you have to come and say hello to old giant trees like this. But anyway, and this tree doesn't have a leopard in. Jamie does have a tree, I think, with a leopard in.
From a weeping boerbean to a marula tree with one very large leopard, Thandi could not look more contented if she tried. In fact, a perfect description, I think, was what came from VM. She's bulging over the branch of the marula tree like a beanbag. Her stomach has molded perfectly over the sides, and I am particularly impressed with just how full this particular leopard looks. Absolutely astounding. Shifting to get a bit more comfortable. I'm not sure I would feel terribly comfortable with a belly like that, bulging over the sides. but she's certainly somehow managed to make it look like a good spot. Morning, Andrew. How are you? Good, thank you. Of course, with absolute pleasure. No sign of Bantuans, I think. Yeah, so we've just been sitting waiting. Hi, guys. Andrew coming to join us in this particular sighting, and hard to pass off this opportunity. Bobby, you wanted to know whether or not if she were to leave this kill in the tree, which she might do at some point to go and fetch the cubs, would the vultures descend and get it? My suspicion is that it wouldn't be the vultures that would come and grab or take that opportunity. I would expect things like tawny eagles and bataliers. That being said, however, there is a chance that a vulture might take the opportunity to descend and come and join her, or join in the feeding frenzy around the carcass. And that is one of the ways that leopards lose their kills. If they've got it in a tree and they go vanishing off, then the birds of prey come down. They aren't quite skilled enough to sort of peck away at the meat without the carcass dropping out of the tree. Hello, gorgeous. Yes, I know. Thundy's got quite a sad-looking face. I don't think she's a sad leopard. She's just got quite a sad-looking face. So those would be the primary threats to her kill if she were to leave. And at some point she is going to. I just hope that it's during, sort of in the duration of the sunrise safari, then perhaps we'll have a chance to see them. I think I know where they are. I could see their tracks going south into Cheetah. Perhaps she's waiting for it to get a little bit warmer. She knows that lions and hyenas are far less likely to be moving about. And that would be the perfect time to bring brawling cubs to come and feed. They, of course, are another big risk to this carcass. Without the necessary skill or strength, lots of occasions, I know you've seen it with Karula and her cubs, leopard cubs come clambering up, try and feed off the carcass and end up dropping it. And poor Mom has to be on standby to race down, fetch it and put it back in the tree. Sort of like moms around the world cleaning up after toddlers that have spread food all across the kitchen. It's the rough leopard equivalent. And perhaps she's just relishing this moment of peace. She's found the perfect spot with a branch that goes over her head, sort of wrapped around her neck. And I think it's provided quite a nice point for her to rest up against. Oh, crazy wolf. Let's say, for example, Tundy repositions, and because she's so round, she goes rolling out of the tree. You were wondering how it is that a leopard always, or a cat always lands on their feet. I've seen a little bit of research done into this, and a little bit of instruction as to how it all works. And generally it's just the incredible muscular control that they have over their bodies, and the ability to twist and turn so that their feet land on the ground. I have occasionally seen instances where leopards haven't landed on their feet before, in fact all cats, so it doesn't always work, but their incredible coordination and their level of perception of the world around them means that they are often very good at twisting and landing safely down once again. So I hear that the Nkuhumas, having spent the morning giving us the slip, are now on the Djuma Dam camera. Just to comfort you all, we are aware of it. Thank you very much for letting us know. Brent is racing towards them as we speak. I had a suspicion that they hadn't gone far. Having checked all around and not seen any tracks coming out, I had a suspicion they were still basically where we left them yesterday evening during our private rehearsals. So you get to spend some time with us and Tundy while Brent races along there. And by the sounds of it, when I was last listening to the Game Drive channel, he's not too far away. So he should be there relatively shortly. Cool, man. What an exciting morning. Tundy, you've got to perform now, girl. Not perform. That's a terrible way of putting it. I didn't mean it like that. I'm just really hoping that she does go down and fetch her cubs. She doesn't look like she's going anywhere, though. Don't know if any of you have ever seen those short animated clips of round animals. if animals were round. There's a wonderful one of a leopard up in a tree that then stretches, rolls and bounces off the tree. That's kind of what Thandi reminds me of now. And it is an absolute pleasure to see her in such good condition. At this point she probably weighs more than Karula does, although Thandi to me has always been a little bit tinier. I don't know what it is about Tundy, but I think she's quite short for a female, or for a female in this area. But right now she probably is heavier than Karula. She must weigh an extra good 5 kilograms than she might normally, which is wonderful, considering she's got 2 hungry mouths to feed as well. Oh, see human's photo while we look at this beautiful cat. You want to know what the biggest human threats are that leopards face. It depends upon where you are. Out here, they actually face very few human threats. The only thing that is most likely, so they're not something that is poached in this area, thank goodness. The biggest threat to a leopard in this area would probably be a snare, a bushmeat snare, that often these metal nooses that desperate people set out on the boundaries of reserves in order to try and catch themselves some extra food, antelope or something like that. And before we judge too harshly, just remember that these are people that have very little in their lives and are desperate and starving. So before we judge them too harshly, but unfortunately those snares often have unintended victims. They're not looking to catch leopards or any predators, but unfortunately sometimes it does happen. Now luckily where we are in the Sabi Sand, the fences in the area is regularly patrolled, so there are very, I would say there's probably no snares out here, but it's always a possibility. In other parts of the Kruger National Park, yes, it's a serious threat. In the rest of the world, one of the biggest things that is a threat to the leopard population, at least the rest of Africa, is their perceived threat to livestock. So you can't fence a leopard. You can't put it into a game reserve, into a protected area and tell it to stay, because if it doesn't want to, it won't. It will bounce out over the fence and off it will go into farmland areas. And as a result, farmers see them as a threat, and they will often go out of their way to eradicate them, which is very sad to hear. And yes, they are, to a degree, a threat to things like sheep and maybe even small cows, what do you call these things? Baby cows? Calves. There we go. They are a threat, but at the same time, that's something that can be overcome with a great deal of education. And there's lots and lots of educational programs in South Africa. As you go further north into parts of Africa that are far more troubled and unstable than South Africa, then the threat becomes that of poaching for their pelts and for their bones. Very sad. Fortunately for us, this is not a fate that will ever befall one of our beautiful Sabi Sand leopard, and we know that they are safe and sound. Let's head across to Stef. Oh my goodness, he's on a roll this morning. He's showing you all the beautiful things. Let's go have a look at a bright red flower.
We found one for you. That is the first weeping boerbean flower of the season, and it couldn't have happened sooner. We're standing not too far from that old giant we were with a couple of minutes ago, and literally the closest boerbean to that is this one. So it's nice. Not the flowers just yet. We've seen maybe 5 sprays of a tree that will literally be covered in them in a couple of days' time, and I'm hoping that this heralds sort of the beginning of all of them flowering, and it'll be quite nice. Interestingly though, this tree has lots of sap, and lots of sap runs, and I wonder if it's not a healthier tree than that tree on the termite mound over there. It doesn't look to be, yeah, the one on the termite mound looks healthier, but I think this one here has a lot more access to water probably, and because of that the sap runs on its bark are more pronounced, and maybe because of that we're seeing the flowers develop on these trees first. Lots of sap. I'm going to bring some down to you now, but basically this whole tree is just covered in sap and would be where we get our amber from, or where the possibility of amber's from. Amber, of course, is fossilized tree sap, some of which contains insects. That there is tree sap, and has the possibility of getting some amber in it. But we're going to send you over. Brent's got to Djuma Dam with a surprise for you.
Here we go. We've caught up with the incredible Nkuhumas, and they're making their way from the Djuma Dam. And there's quite a few fat berries amongst you. I wonder if they've got a kill somewhere, or if they caught a small buffalo last night. Hi guys. Doesn't look like they're going far. And there's a Birmingham boy here as well. Here he is. They're heading to the west. No, don't you dare, little cub. Now we were just here, not even 10 minutes ago, so we must have just missed them coming out of the block. But I'm always happy to spend time with the Nkuhumas. Now they're about to go into quite a thick little river system, so I'm going to pop around to the other side of it. And I'm sure that Birmingham boy will get up and follow now. But I just want to keep up with them in case they do maybe possibly have a kill, but it's unlikely that all of them would have come to drink at the same time. So while we catch up with the lions, let's go back to Jamie with Thandi.
Now, the lions are giving Brent a run for his money. Tundy has been very, very kind to us and has not moved more than a couple of inches up further into her marula tree. And now we wait and play the patience game. But this is a rare pleasure indeed. We hardly ever get to see Tundy, and I think this is probably one of the longest periods of time I've actually ever spent with her. When we've seen her, the only other times that we've seen her properly has been when she's been mating with Tingana, following him into Karula's territory. We've had a chance to properly spend some time with her. But to spend time with her on her own, in a portion of her territory, I've only had this pleasure a couple of times around Cheetah Plains. And it seems as though with her cubs she's been spending a great deal more time in Torchwood. Now Jason, you were wondering if she's called for the cubs yet. No, she hasn't. Not this morning at least. In fact, she's barely even glanced over her shoulder in the direction that I think she's left her cubs. So no calling just yet. I think enjoying a rare moment of peace. Kind of like a mom on a morning off. No calling just yet, but as soon as that does happen, she'll probably, what I predict, we'll wait and see because you shouldn't try and predict a leopard's behavior. If she does decide to go and fetch them, she's going to come down the tree, she's going to walk across the road into Cheetah, giving that soft, gentle sound that leopards make, and then hopefully come back with two bumbling little cubs behind her. That's what I'm hoping. That's what's happening in my head already. We're just waiting for that opportunity to see them. I've been desperate to see Tundy's cubs since the moment I found out they'd been born. But since she is resting peacefully, and Brent does have some baby big cats for you, let's go and watch the antics of the lion cubs.
Yeah, they've moved through this little river system into quite a thick area. We got a visual of a couple of the cubs, and you saw that big boy who followed them at the back. And I'm trying to see whether they're going to lie down. I thought they might keep moving, but it looks like they might rest up here, very close to the lodge. I can hear lots of noises of cubs playing a bit deeper in the thicket, so maybe let's try and move a little bit further forward. Oh dear. Thorns. Okay. Survival with only one thorn in the finger. So it's not uncommon for lions to lie up in thickets like this. Just going to move slowly, slowly. Now they're all looking quite well fed. Just roll. There we go. Now the others are just in a really thick area where you can't actually get any visual of them. You can hear them though. Okay, well, if that cub moves, we might be able to see a few more of them a bit better, which he is. Thank you, mister. There we are, all spread out on the edge of this little river system here. And the ones we can hear are actually sucking, but we can't really see them. They're right in the heart of the thicket to the left of us. Now we've been incredibly lucky with the amount of time we've got to spend with this particular pride since they've given birth to these 8 wonderful little balls of terror. And it's quite funny, some of the older cubs have reached that sort of gangly phase, that sort of in-betweener phase. Their feet and legs look too big for the rest of their bodies. Now, I couldn't see which Birmingham this was. Look, he's playing there. Standing by. They're stationary now just in the Chkova, the fish cove if you're heading west on Mvubu. Oh, look at that belly. That is a big tummy for a little lion. So they might have actually caught something last night, but nothing big enough to keep them on it. There were lots of animals around there. There was that buffalo herd, there was zebra, there were kudu. So there were a lot of animals around where they were. That belly's so big you can barely walk. Doesn't mean he's not going to try eat some more by the looks of things. And it sounds like you guys are getting some great screenshots. Remember to share them with us on Twitter with the hashtag Safari Live, or pop them on our Facebook page, which is of course just Safari Live. Or if you're members of many of our viewers' incredible groups that follow the different animals out here, you can also share them with everyone who might have missed the drive this morning. Yeah, unfortunately not the best spot for us to view them, but nice to have them close by. Now Calvin's wondering, do the lions ever get curious enough to come to the car? Sometimes they do, specifically the younger cubs. When you're driving, they see the movement of their wheels, and you watch their heads go round and round and round. But they will come quite close to the car. Sometimes out of curiosity, sometimes just they walk straight past us. They take very little notice of us as we follow them. Remember, hashtag Safari Live or questions at WildEarthTV if you would like to ask us anything about the incredible Nkuhuma pride or the Birmingham boys. Now, I'm not sure which Birmingham that is at the moment. I don't think it's the one with the hole in his face. There's a scar on the base of his nose. And while he's lying like that, now the guy with the hole in his face, so for me he's got a darker mane than this one. This could be the Hoff or Blondie, I'm not sure what everyone calls him. And it looks like the pride is settling down. We're going to stay here, see if they get on the move again. We'll see if those cubs start playing once they've finished feeding. But while we do that, let's go back to Jamie and Thandi.
Things are definitely looking up in terms of our chances of Tundy fetching her cubs. First of all, she's swapped around. She's now facing a different direction, which is a good start. I think that was mainly, though, because she can't find a comfortable place to put that massive belly. But she did at one point lift up her head and rather half-heartedly chuff. Twice. Like she remembered she'd better check up on the cubs, but couldn't quite be bothered to get down the tree just yet, which is fair enough. I imagine hoisting that extra weight around might be a little bit uncomfortable. Look at her. Isn't it wonderful? It is so special to see her in such good shape. And she's positively exhausted from all that digesting that she has to do. But she definitely thought about getting the cubs. It was an idle thought, apparently, and a very half-hearted effort, but you never know. Very good question from Judy H, which is something I've been thinking about as well. So thank you, Judy, for sending it through. I forgot to talk about it. The question is, how long will it take for Tundy to be uncomfortable due to milk production and have to get down to go and suckle the cubs? The answer to that with leopards seems to be that they can go quite an extended period of time without suckling. So in the initial stages of the sort of the cub's first few weeks of life, the leopardess will return to them every couple of hours to suckle. But now with Tundy's cubs being, what are they? They must be close to 3 months old now. They're almost weaned, which means that her milk supply will be gradually drying up. Now, I haven't had a good chance to see whether she has any fresh suckle marks on her belly, although I would say that it's most likely that she got down at some point during the night or early this morning to feed the cubs and then returned back once again. The cubs have definitely been here because I could see their tracks all over the road. So they were around here last night. And the answer to your question, Judy, the long and the short of it, would probably be that she could go, now with the cubs being about three months old, I'd say she could easily go for a day without suckling the cubs. That would be my guess. And as the cubs start to get older, the pressure on the mom to carry on hunting gets greater and greater. And I mean, we've seen Karula leave her cubs for 2 days at a time. We have no idea if perhaps she went by to check on them. That's entirely possible. But we've found them a few times in exactly the same place for 48 hours. And then Karula comes back to fetch them when she's ready to feed them. And she's so settled and comfortable. Sorry, I just had to listen to the Game Drive channel there for 1 second. I think that we can expect some company in the not too distant future. That's okay though, because there are no cubs here at the moment. They have opened up the sighting, so there are 2 vehicles allowed to come in at the moment, rather than just the one if she did have cubs. If she goes down and fetches her cubs whilst there is another vehicle here, both of us will sit very, very quietly until the cubs are in a secure place, and then I will move out. So to make it back to a 1 vehicle sighting again. A really nice opportunity to just examine the coloration of a leopard. The fact that they have rosettes on their sides and on their back rather than solid spots, which is of course one of the big things that sets them apart from cheetah. And then their incredibly solid, powerful build. They are, I would say, pound for pound. If I had to guess it, I would say that kilogram for kilogram, they are the strongest of the predators. They are just tiny creatures full of muscle, ferocity and power and speed. I was thinking about it after that lioness nearly got hold of Tingana. I was wondering how that scenario would have played out if she had managed to catch him, which of course would have been absolutely awful. But I think that a leopard would do some serious damage to a lion. She's definitely heavier than him and definitely stronger than him. But I think that the speed of his response to her attack might actually have taken her by surprise, and I still think he might have got away. A female leopard, of course, that's a different story. She's a good 100 kilograms lighter than the Nkuhuma lionesses, even with her current bulge. The time is ticking. We're going to patiently wait with Thandi. Let's head across and see what other wonderful thing Stef has found for you on Bushwalk.
You're busy looking at the young shoots of a buffalo thorn that's just gotten its springtime leaves, and they are the most tasty leaves out here when they are this young. They don't get tasty as they get older, believe me. They get very distasteful when they get older, but when they're young like this, they have a very sweet flavor. I don't quite know how to pin it. It's like a sweet spinach, if I could put it to you that way. It doesn't have the bitterness of a cabbage leaf. It's got that slight. It's more sweet than a spinach leaf, but like spinach. It's a fantastic tasting leaf when they're young. When they get a bit older than this, you have to cook them. I won't take all the new leaves. I'll leave them with some. Well, that was nice. Why I actually came here is I wanted to show you this rather insignificant marula tree. Not because marula trees are insignificant. If anything, I think that they're one of the keystone trees out here, meaning that they hold up an entire web of life over here. But apart from the marula fruit which will come out between February and April, they also have other uses, these trees, and one of them is as a dye, a red dye. So you come up to a tree, pry off one of these barks, the bark of this tree comes off in these slabs, and they shed parasites, ectoparasites, like mistletoe, for instance, will come out of the bark. And then what you do is you take off the inside of the bark, and you'll see there that red, you can see how juicy it is. That red there not only makes a very nice red dye, but it also acts as a fantastic antihistamine. So you can peel off slabs of this bark which will expose that red juicy inner bark, and then you can crush it up a little, mix it with a little bit of water if you want to, and then you can place it in particular over stings and over when you've been stung by a caterpillar, a hairy caterpillar, or bitten by something. You can put it onto your skin and it will reduce swelling as a natural antihistamine. But quite interesting, this tree. Like I said, rather insignificant, apart from the fact that it has been used as a scratching post by an elephant at some point. Here's some mud all the way up to about here. Elephant has rubbed off his mud. Looking for some hair. Let's see if that is the hair of an... Yes, we got hair of an elephant. There you go. Unmistakably the hair from an elephant. Where that hair comes from on the elephant's probably a youngster. Let me see, its forehead maybe of a young elephant. Where else? Its tail? No, its tail wouldn't stretch up this far. I don't know where this came from. So young elephant, some hair. Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing a bit of your day with us. Sorry I hurt you. You just rub it. Now, I mean, that sand that I'm putting on there does nothing, and I'm just hoping that it dries it up a little bit faster. But when traditional healers collect from trees, so when they collect bark from a tree or where they collect roots from a tree, they will always do so on the eastern side. In this particular case, the eastern side is right here. So they'll collect on the eastern side of the tree, and only on the eastern side of the tree. They'll only dig over here on the eastern side of the tree, and they'll dig out for roots, and then they leave it alone after that. And why they do that? They do that because by digging just on the eastern side creates a moat, a hole that'll fill up with detritus and become a compost to heal the wound that they caused the tree. And it also acts as a signpost. So if I've collected on the eastern side of the tree, it's a signpost to all other traditional healers that this tree has been harvested from. Please let it repair itself. It's sort of sustainable utilization or sustainable farming practice. So always a good idea, and it pays respect to the traditions out here. Collect from the eastern side of a tree only if it's already been collected, or if bark has already been harvested or wood has already been harvested. Don't do it. Leave the tree to recover and give it some time to repair. Go find one that hasn't. Right. Quite nice, hey? We're going to carry on with our march back up onto quarantine, and we'll send you over to those lions with Brent.
So it sounds like there's actually some elephants heading towards where the lions are sleeping. They pop their heads up. Listen carefully, you can just hear some branches breaking. And I was incorrect. I'm just going to move a little bit. And it is the male lion with the hole in his face. He just looked a little bit more blonde this morning. Let's just get around to where we can see him and have a look at that wound. It looks a bit better. The swelling looks to have gone down quite a bit. We can have a look through that little gap there. You can see the swelling's gone down. What's he got in there now? A stick? No, it's just drying skin. There's a stick in there. And from scratching, I'm sure. But the swelling does look a lot better than it was. And you can see he's not pouring at it as much. Snoozy. I can't see which lioness he's sticking closest to at the moment, so I'm going to move around again a little bit. Could be the amber-eyed female, could be the youngest lioness. Looks like amber. They're all looking particularly well fed. It definitely looks like that wound is getting a bit better. That swelling that was almost keeping his eye closed earlier has gone down. And it's not unusual for lions to have dirts and sticks and bits of things in a wound. So do scratch it and rub it. Oh, we can hear those elephants coming closer. Hi, Jono. Jono is wondering whether lions can see in colour. They cannot, Jono. They see in various shades of grey. Oh, I wonder if those Ellies are going to chase the lions. If they happen to stumble upon them, they might. So there's the rest of the pride all in a nice little bundle at the back there. Where are you going under the branch? Stepping on cubs as you go. Oh! Cub coming over, being disturbed by the lioness lying down. Now it's incredible the trials and tribulations of the Nkuhuma pride just in the short time that I've been lucky enough to follow them. They lost 3 adult lionesses to these very Birmingham boys they now consort with during the pride takeover. The Matimbas left. The Birminghams established themselves as the dominant male coalition in the north. And then 8 wonderful cubs born to this coalition. Definitely looks like they caught something last night, but what? We don't know. Emma's wondering, is there any conflict between leopards and lions? Most definitely. If given the opportunity, a lion will kill a leopard, and vice versa, although the leopards being much smaller generally are only able to kill lion cubs when they have been left alone while the adults are out hunting. I can hear those Ellies feeding, getting a bit closer. We can't see them yet. Apparently the elephants can be seen from the dam cam. And while these lions are snoozing, hopefully Tundy's up to a little bit more.
Well, her eyes are open, which is about as much as Tundy's up to at the moment. But she did call once again in a very sort of unenthusiastic kind of way. Wow, she's looking right at us. Sorry, girl, I didn't mean to describe your performance as lackluster. Oh, there we go. Back to sleep again. So she's making a sort of a soft croaking sound, I don't know, that wasn't perhaps the best impression I've ever done of a leopard calling her cubs. But she's doing it really, really softly, and it's also quite windy this morning. So I'm not entirely sure how she expects her cubs to hear her, or if they are hearing her, how on earth they're managing to hear her, and if they're calling back in response, if maybe she's just checking in with them. And then once she knows they're safe, then she goes back to sleep again. It is interesting behavior, though, because it is almost like she can't be bothered to get up and call them. Look, she is incredibly full. Her body's working unbelievably hard right now to digest that amount of food. And this is not a full that you and I would experience if perhaps we overindulged at a nice lunch or perhaps a holiday meal. This is seriously full. She has gorged herself. And she's now packed on a good few extra kilograms of weight. And her body is working unbelievably hard to deal with it and to process it all. She does look as though she's resting on that stick, though. I kind of can see it now. The stick poking up underneath her armpit seems to be holding her in place, almost like she's found a spot to anchor herself. Well, she better be careful. Let's go to the lions, see what they're doing.
Okay, so the elephants have just stepped into view, and it looks like they can smell the lions. The cubs have started standing up, and the elephants are just behind that bush there. You can just see the movement. Now, if they spot the lions, there's a good chance that they're going to chase them, even though they don't pose too much of a threat to the elephants. Elephants just really don't like predators. Now, some of the cubs have obviously been chased by elephants before and are sneaking off already. Oh, there they are. Oh, there's a tiny little baby elephant, so I don't think the lions, or the elephants know the lions are there, but the lions are not wasting their time getting out of here before they get chased. So there you can see the elephant moving just behind those remaining lionesses. And it looks like the whole Nkuhuma pride is deciding discretion is the better part of valor. Oh, here comes a big cow. Now they're all up, Birmingham boy included. The elephants look like they can smell them now. You can see there's a little bit of a rush to get out of here. Okay, let's go stick with the lions. Is that elephant cow spotted them? Let me just get into a good spot. I think she's going to chase Brian. That one. There, that one. So we just... There we go. She spotted the lions. There comes the charge. The lions are actually running off. We can't see them from here. She's going to go again. Surprised she hasn't trumpeted yet. Okay, let's try get into a spot. Those lions scattered, but I think they're going to be heading behind me. Avoid the thorns. There we go. So the last place I saw the lions was running down towards the lodge. Watch your head, Brian. Okay, looks like the elephants have moved off. We've caught up with one Birmingham, one cub and one lioness. Oh, there's another cub popping up. Oh, here come all the cubs. Just trying to see where the other lionesses are. But I think the lions are going to lie down. They're still going to be here in the afternoon. They're going to sleep in this area. Hopefully they don't get harassed by too many elephants today. But from the killer bees, it's been wonderful. And the thumb with his eye patch, because Brian hurt his eye. So as a lot of you might have figured out, Brian's thumb is an extension of his personality a lot of the days. So he's got a sore eye, so he's got an eye patch today. But from us, goodbye, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Enjoy Tundy with Jamie for the last few moments of show.
Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time on our sunrise safari, and no sign of Tundy's cubs just yet. But the fact that she's still calling gives us high hopes for future sightings with them, and we'll just have to play the patience game a little bit longer. At some point, I'm going to have a chance to see them. It has to happen. Well, it's time for us to do our goodbyes and our thank yous, so a big thank you to VM for all of his fantastic camera work, as always, as well as spotting those baby bronze-winged horses, to Kirsty and to Jerry in final control, and most importantly, a very big thank you to all of you watching across the globe. I hope you had a marvelous sunrise safari. We're going to finish off with one last view of beautiful Thandi. Wherever you happen to be in the world, have a fantastic day, and we'll catch up with you soon.